Today we're tying a vampire leech. It's a Todd Oshie pattern and it just catches a lot of fish. There's a few variants that we'll be talking about today. I'll show you at the end of the film here. So we're starting off with a Hannock hook, 200 BL, and we're using a tungsten bead again, and it's the Chartreuse or the bright green, and you can tie this with orange as well. And again, I like the tungsten beads because it, as you pull it back to the boat, it sinks really quickly, but as you pull it back, it brings it up and then sinks quickly, creating a jigging motion. And then the Marabou tail, it moves around quite a bit and attracts a fish. We're going to start off with our UTC 70 thread in black. So we're just going to lay our thread on top and tie this in today. Just get those thread wraps started. Cut that off, and we're going to lay a layer of thread on top of the shank of the hook, and this just allows our material to have something to sit on so it doesn't slip. The next material we're tying in is black Marabou. So this is what I'm using today. It's just what I have on hand, got locally, and I have a piece already pulled out. And so what we're going to do is just strip off some here, pinch it in our fingers and strip that down so it looks like this, but messy in the back. So I'm taking my scissors, snip off the extra, give myself a clean end, and then switch fingers, just reposition so I can hold it really nice, and put that right behind the bead and lock that down a few wraps, keep the Marabou on top of the shank of the hook, and wrap this back. You see I keep my bobbin nice and close to something I like to do. I'm going to hold the Marabou up, put a wrap behind that, one on top, a second one behind it, and on top. And again, this is just keeping the Marabou from wrapping underneath the shank of the hook when you're fishing it. Now you can see that the tail's super long right now, and that's okay, but what we're going to do is kind of pinch it off about the same length as the shank of the hook. Just pinch in my fingers and then tear it. You don't want to cut Marabou because you want to have those jagged edges so it will breathe really well as we're using it. I think I kind of moved the vise there. That's all good. Nice tail tied in there. Okay, so now we're going to tie in our flash for the tail. And again, we're using Krinkle mirror flash, and it really draws fish over. I feel it draws fish from a distance back to your fly, and it's always a good thing for more fish to see your flies. So I'm going to wrap this underneath our thread and back onto this side closest to me. Two pieces that are on here. We get that kind of position in the right spot and just put a wrap or two to hold it in place. There we go. I'm just going to rotate that vise a little bit, lock it in on this side, and pull that Krinkle flash back on this side of the fly as well, and lock that in place. That's great. We're going to take our scissors now and cut that flash to the same length as our tail. And just put those extras aside because that'll do another fly or two there. You see we have that Krinkle flash in there. At this point you can reposition it just to open it up a little bit. It's not locked in there completely yet. I like to just have it a little bit separated. The Krinkle flash really becomes quite bright when it's in the water and the sun's hitting it. That's nice, really nice material to use. Next step, very easy fly to tie. We're using our UV Brill, and we're using black today. And this is again a vampire leech, and we're going to make sure that Brill is pointing back. Okay. We're just going to catch in the end. We're using mini Brill, so I don't find I have to strip down to the core. It doesn't build up a lot of bulk with this pattern. Bring the thread up to the bead and start wrapping forward with the Brill. Now we're doing this in wrapping turns. Try and pull all those fibers back with each turn so you don't bury them under. You want them facing back towards that tail. Okay, so we'll keep continuing wrapping this with touching turns forward, building the body of this fly. It's a really great attractor. and I've been in a lot of situations where this fly has saved the day. It's usually one of the first that goes on. It's a good searching pattern, but man, does it ever catch fish. Okay, so we're going to wrap a few additional wraps of the Brill behind the bead. Helps build up and lock that bead in place so it's not going to move on us. And we're going to lock this in with 2 wraps behind it, 2 wraps in front of it, and snug it up. Trim this one off there, and now pulling all those fibers back, I'm going to start wrapping the head up here. So let's build up a little bit of a thread base behind the bead, locking the bead in place and all the material that we just tied in. You see I'm pulling all that material back as I do this. As I start to build up on the bead, I know I'm in a good spot. I'm going to take my whip finisher and do a knot or 2 here. 1, 2, 3 times around. Tie that off, and 1 more. I like doing 2. I don't have my flies really fall apart that much, so we do 2 of those. Now typically I don't use head cement. I don't like the smell of it, or the idea that the fish might be able to smell it. But when you are tying you're new to tying, it really does keep your patterns together longer. So I'm just going to dip a toothpick into my head cement here and apply that, and the toothpick point just allows me to be a bit more precise with where I'm putting that head cement, so I'm not getting it all over the fly. There's a little brush in my head cement, but it's not very accurate. I don't really like using the brush. Close up the head cement. That's smelly stuff. Alright, so there we go. We have our vampire leech tie. So I'm just going to put that on some cork here, get that out of view. And I'm going to throw on another one here. So I talked about using the green head there, the Chartreuse, and we also have a hot orange head. Again, you need this pattern. I was fishing in a boat in a competition. My partner had the orange head vampire leeches, and I had only the green. And he outfished me, so I learned very quickly I need the orange. You can also tie them. This is a really good idea with that Chartreuse bead. Put some hot orange thread behind the head. After you finish tying is another hot spot. It's just another little trick, draws fish over. And this one here, you want to make sure you tie all your beaded patterns without beads when you're fishing shallow water. The floating line or a intermediate sink, a slow sink, you don't want to hit the bottom all the time. You want to be above the fish, that they can only look up, and you want to make sure that you're fishing above the fish and not in the weeds. And I learned that one a few years ago. This one's also tied much smaller than a number 10. It's probably a 14 maybe, and it fishes very well. I've caught a lot of fish on this in the last few years without the bead. So that's it. That's a vampire leech, and thanks for watching.